I have a fun bonus painting for you this week. Let's paint a heart portal painting. To do this, we need to paint a simple landscape. So for Valentine's Day, I'm going to stick with reds and pinks as the middle tones. And in the top part of my canvas, I'm taking my mop brush and doing back and forth strokes with just red, pink, and white together. This is going to be the sky to our landscape. Notice I didn't go all the way up to the top of the canvas or all the way to the sides though. That part will be covered in the end. Next, without washing the brush, dip into red and pink only and make it darker underneath your sky for the bottom half. Like I did with the top, I didn't go all the way down to the bottom, but I am going to dry it so I can make the bottom half even darker. I'm just dipping into more red and pink and bringing it down a little bit further. But again, don't worry about all around the edges because that will be covered with the heart. Dry that and then grab a size 6 round brush. For a simple horizon line, take a darker color. I'm taking a darker shade of red and doing a line for the horizon. And let's just do simple wavy hills. Just do a wavy line over top of that and fill in anything in between. There we go. That is a simple landscape. Dry that really good, and before we do any more detail, let's add the frame of the heart. To do this, take a round brush. Now you could take a pencil and sketch a heart. I'm freehanding mine. Make sure it frames the center of your landscape so that the outside edges are on the outside edge of the heart like that. That's why I wasn't worried about going all the way out to the edges. Now we're going to fill in everything outside the heart with black. To do this, I would take your round brush first and just make it a thicker black line around, and then grab your bigger brush and then save some time by just covering everything out all the way out to the edges of the canvas with the black. That's what we call a heart portal. I love it. Dry all of it really good. If your black paint is thin, do a second coat if you need to. And then we're going to do something that's similar to a spin-off of the heart wreath we did last year. Grab your fine sea sponges and some bright green paint. A trend I've been seeing recently is these portal paintings and then there's green spilling out from the landscape into the black frame. I love that idea, so I had to try my hand at it. I'm just taking the sponge with the light green and just tapping it along the edge. Don't worry if it gets into the pink a little bit. You do want it to look like it's coming out from around the edge. And don't make it a perfect line around the heart either. Make it uneven in some places. I would start small by just outlining around the heart and then growing it out more and more until you have enough. I'm adding quite a bit more spilling out on the bottom half of my heart because I want it to look more of a landscape spilling out on the ground and then growing up along the top of the heart too. Something like that. Another thing you can do is mix some dark brown in with your light green and add some shading to it. This makes it look a little bit more earthy. Again, it's up to you how much detail you do. Have fun with it. Now that we have a little bit more of a ground cover, why don't we plant a tree? Taking a small round brush and black paint, I'm going to plant a tree that's growing outside of the heart in the green and branch it all the way up through the heart to the top of the green. Notice I made the bottom of the trunk a little bit thicker and do some simple branches, making those V's. I'm making sure that they are somewhat uneven. They're not perfectly straight lines. And you can switch to a detail brush if you want to do tiny, tiny branches. I'm keeping this one super simplified. Don't be afraid to have some branches going out into the pink too. And I'm even going to try, let's do some like roots here. Don't know if I like that. I do want to make sure there is some going a little bit further into the pink like that there, because we're going to add some white blooms to this tree then. Love the contrast. Don't like those roots though, so I'm just covering that up with a little bit of texture. Something like that. How fun! Now, what's Valentine's Day without roses? Take a detail brush, add some simple flowers. I'm keeping it super simple and just doing swirls around the heart in the green. I did some bigger ones to make it look like they're closer to us. You can do groups of a couple different roses, like I'm going to do a couple groups of 3. And they don't all have to be down at the bottom. Because there's green all the way around the heart, you can do them all around, kind of like a heart wreath. Isn't that fun? Keep it simple because the focus is going to be actually some swans floating in the water here. With a round brush and white paint, do 2 small curved white lines like this for the start of your swans. We're going to start with a simple swan shape, so do a wavy line coming off of that swoop, and then a one big swoop coming off of that. That's the shape of the body, so just do swooping brush strokes to fill it in. See how the ends of those brush strokes look like the end of feathers? That's perfect. Now anything on the left swan is going to mirror what we did on the right one since he's facing the opposite direction. So fill it in with swooping brush strokes going the opposite direction. And then you can keep them that size, but I'm going to take my brush and continue to add to the shape until I get them a little bit bigger. The more brush strokes you add, the fluffier you can make the wings. I'm even going to point the tails out a little bit more on the ends. Maybe bring their chest down into the water a little bit more, make that more of a curve. For the necks, curve it up and back towards the body and then make a sharp little brush stroke for the head that turns down, like that. Same thing on the opposite side, curves up and back towards the body a little bit and then a sharp brush stroke down for the head. And so they don't look too flat, add a little bit of gray for shading along the bottom curve of the swan, and you can even add some along the curve of the wing in the middle. Just a little hint. If you do too much, you can blend it back in with some white. Don't forget beaks. Take your detail brush and add 2 little tiny triangles coming off of their heads. Say they were a little bit rounded before. Take the black paint and point it down. They're almost touching each other, but not quite. And I'm even going to add a tiny little eye. I know swans have that eye that connects to the beak. You could do that too, but I'm keeping it simple. And I'm even going to do 2 little curves coming off of the beak to make it look like they have a little bit of a chin. So I'm going to make that a little darker so we can see it. There, now it looks like they have a shadow underneath their head. Super simple, but super cute. Let's even take a little bit more white paint and curve the back of that one's head. There we go. From a distance, they look like swans, so don't be intimidated by them. They are super simple. Now, underneath the swans, I'm going to take just a tiny hint of pink. This is even watered down just a little bit. And do some back and forth strokes in the bottom point of the heart to look like ripples in the water. Also kind of looks like a reflection. Maybe I'm going to add some white highlights to my red mountains a little bit. Blend that in with a little bit of dark red, just so it looks like it has a little bit of light shining on them. And speaking of light, I want to add a little white moon in the corner. So taking a medium pouncer and some white paint, I'm going to have a little bit of gray in there, that's cute. Press down and twist up in the sky, there's a simple moon. As a final step, let's add the cherry blossoms to the tree. I'm going to take a cluster of cotton swabs for this and dip it in white paint to make a stamp. This is a much quicker way to add cherry blossoms than doing the single skewer method that I like to do. In other paintings, I used the back of a skewer and added them each individually. This gives you a little bit more control, but the cotton swab method like this, it goes much quicker and you're going to get much more coverage because it's more like a sponge. Don't be afraid to have the texture go into the pink and coming off the tree into different areas. It doesn't have to be touching the branches. See how a lot of my blooms go off the branch and make it branch out a little bit more. You can even have some come down along the outside edge. And maybe some blooms fell off, so I'm going to do little tiny clusters around my roses all the way around the heart as well. Also gives the illusion of a heart wreath. I love how the 2 concepts are combined here. This was such a fun idea. I'm going to even add as a final step some bright green highlights with my sea sponge, especially along the bottom. See how that makes some of the areas of the texture pop. And there's my version of a heart portal painting. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I think you will too. If you like this tutorial, follow me for more, and I can't wait to see how yours turn out. Have fun and happy Valentine's Day this week, everybody.